PM announces possible COVID-19 death. Patients refused treatment at Gerehu Hospital. And light plane crash outside Port Moresby.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Seah.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Monday's news. Papua New Guinea has recorded its first COVID-19 related death. The case, a male in his mid-30s, had been admitted to Port Moresby General Hospital's intensive care unit last week. It is understood that he had underlying health issues. Prime Minister James Marape made the announcement in a media conference this afternoon. He said the positive COVID-19 case was in critical condition and was on ventilators at Port Moresby General Hospital when he passed away this afternoon. The 35-year-old was a health officer admitted to PomGen last Wednesday. The Prime Minister is awaiting a report from medical officers to confirm if this is possibly a COVID-19 death.
I've received a report from Port Moresby General Hospital in our ICU that possible of one person dying, whether it's from COVID-19 or related matter. Medical certificate is not yet available to me, but at 1:40 today, someone who was admitted into ICU ward for the specialized intensive care unit built for COVID-19 has passed on. He's a young male, aged about 35, and doctors will certify exactly the cause of his death and passing. But I'm impressing and announcing to the nation that someone within the care of COVID-19 ICU has passed on, and we take time to acknowledge him. He works in the health department, from the human resource section of our health department. Amongst those pool of positive cases from the health department that was moved into isolation, and for him into specific ICU care. Today, news reached us that he died, and we are awaiting medical certification to establish exactly the cause of his death and if it is indeed COVID-induced.
The nation's capital, Port Moresby, will undergo a 2-week lockdown after the announcement of the first COVID-19 related death. That, after a massive spike in cases overnight, will result in schools from elementary to tertiary closing and public motor vehicles prevented from operating. Prime Minister James Marape also saying that very soon masks will be made mandatory in all public spaces. These measures are already part of PNG's state of emergency protocol in a bid to restrict the movement of people.
In Port Moresby, there will be no gathering in public places. Maximum gathering will be around 15 people, with space given for them to congregate and meet and discuss. We're looking at putting a flight ban coming in and going out of Port Moresby. That will be introduced. As of tomorrow onwards, we are stopping all people from boarding Air New Guinea to fly out. And those who will be coming in, those who have business in Port Moresby, or those who reside in Port Moresby will be coming back in. We're getting no people from Port Moresby to fly out unless on business and work. Controller will issue those clearance and people can fly out of Port Moresby. But PX and Airlines PNG will not be uplifting people out of Port Moresby for the next 14 days. International flights will be operated only between Port Moresby and Cairns and Brisbane, and this will be operated by PNG aircraft only. Nightclubs are banned. As I said earlier, there will be maximum limit of 15 people gathering in public places. We're looking at restricting sporting activities. All business will be required to implement COVID-19 protocols so that we adhere to some of these fundamental safety principles. And testing in and around NCD will be scaled up Only essential public servants for the next 2 weeks will be tasked to come to work. Those who are classified as non-essentials or will be working shift, public servants are not necessarily on holidays. You'll be asked to support the volunteers, the Defence Force, and the police in wherever you live in Port Moresby City to assist in ensuring that whether testing is conducted or getting to know the city, or if the task is required of you, then the public servants will be redeployed, assisting health workers, assisting police, and assisting defense. Schools will be closed down for the next 14 days so that we take stock of where we are. And I ask our universities and colleges to ensure those who are in schools to be maintained in school, those who live off campuses to stay off campus for the next 14 days. We don't run any courses. And for high schools and primary school, they stay at home in and around Port Moresby for us to take stock of the effect of COVID-19 in Port Moresby and to know exactly what is taking place in NCD. No PMV will be operating as of tomorrow. And this is advice to all PMVs, stay at home. Taxis will operate, but those who want to get on taxis, you will wear mask. And you wear mask and you get on taxi. Taxi drivers will be asked to wear mask also. Our churches, crusades and all these large gatherings have been asked to, we're asking to be refrained, but churches will run and operate. But we're asking our church pastors and our Christian churches right throughout our city on Sabbaths or Sundays, you do double services or 2 or 3 times services a day, minimize church activities and allow spaces in congregation and get proper COVID protocols that you already know in terms of sanitation, spaces in church areas. And we're asking for shifts or double service times every Sunday or Sabbaths so that we can allow churches to run, but in a COVID-sensitive manner.
Following concerns raised by nurses and doctors at Port Moresby General Hospital on COVID-19 protocols and PPEs, discussions are underway to address this issue. In a letter, nurses and doctors at the hospital say COVID-19 protocols at the emergency department are non-effective, and it is understood that they are not fully equipped with PPEs to deal with COVID-19 cases. Today, the PNG Nurses Association held a meeting to highlight their grievances. It is understood that they will meet with authorities at Port Moresby General Hospital to discuss a way forward. Many schools in the city are already taking measures to ensure students and staff are protected. In complying with government directives, schools are enforcing the mandatory order for everyone to wear masks. One school in NCD today turned away more than 100 students who came to school without masks.
The rise in the number of COVID-19 cases in Port Moresby now indicates community transmission, and the numbers are expected to rise in the coming days, and schools remain one of the vulnerable spots and needs close attention. Boroboa Primary School in NCD turned away more than 100 students in the morning for not wearing masks.
Students were told on Friday that when you come into the school you wear the face mask. So that's what we did this morning. We had more than 100 students where we sent them away because they were not wearing face masks. The parents said they were not told. However, with the school administration, I told the parents that you need to be in touch with the media because the media is always up to date with what we need to do.
The school has several wash stations established during the initial COVID-19 lockdown earlier in the year and are encouraging students to practice basic hygiene while waiting for further directions from the government. Marinville Secondary School is one of the only boarding schools in the city, and head teacher Monica Kianka says the school will lock its gates starting tomorrow, and anyone wishing to visit the school should have their masks on and walk from the gate down. She said the school has in stock masks that were donated some time ago and will utilize this stock during this time. Marinville also has wash stations established across the school with hand sanitizers in classrooms, and Ms. Kianka has encouraged students to wear masks masks at all times. Given its boarding status, she said the 278 boarding students have been briefed on the measures they will take. Measures include the use of 2 dining halls for meals, among others.
So at the moment, if any kid has got a temperature or has any flu symptoms, we call the parents immediately. So we do have a nurse at school and the parents pick them up.
Other schools in the city also indicated that they have now made it mandatory for students to wear masks to school. However, teachers like Ms. Retsey says children will always be children, and despite instructing them to wear masks, they will take it off anytime they wish to. And this is something she says most teachers in schools don't have much control over. Ruth Rongula, National EMTV News.
And as the Prime Minister mentioned late this afternoon, schools in NCD are now shut down for 14 days. Public health facilities are refusing services and shutting their doors to the general public due to the rise in confirmed COVID-19 cases. Gerehu Hospital had its gates shut this morning, turning away residents seeking medical attention. And at Cora reports.
As cases continue to surge, calls for stronger measures have alluded to a total lockdown in the nation's capital to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, seeing that numbers have doubled over the weekend. While Port Moresby General Hospital has completely scaled down on operations, attending to only the critically ill, a large group of people seeking medical attention were turned away at the Gerehu Hospital this morning. The guards at the gate telling residents to go to other smaller clinics to get treatment. Much to the disappointment of the large group gathering outside the hospital gates seeking justification as to why they have been refused entry to get treatment, many expressed frustration, stating that the hospital closing its doors is depriving their right to accessing treatment for the genuinely sick, and that some of these issued measures need to be reviewed to have vital health services in operation for the rest of the populace.
Not everyone has money to go to public private clinics.
David Manning amas arimol concern but citizen try to review sample safety measures.
Others questioning why hospitals had its gates shut when NCD is not on lockdown, adding that there was no such announcement for hospitals to shut its gates to the genuinely ill.
None of them is stating that the hospitals would be shut.
A few others believing COVID-19 is just a hoax. This morning's scene is a clear indication that the onus of health now has been passed on to the people themselves. The general public only coming up to speed with mandatory mask wearing in public spaces. A measure that was issued last week Friday is only one example of the lack of awareness on the measures which are supposed to be enforced by relevant authorities. Annette Cora, National EMTV News.
Responding to the Gerehu Hospital closure and closure of other clinics, Prime Minister James Marape reassured city residents that essential health services will be provided.
There is a possible threat, and we're getting our health facilities in the city to remain open. Health department, as I said, is working to ensure that those health services in our city is not compromised because of COVID-19, and we run them side by side. Look, we can only do what we have to do. But the health workers themselves are equally concerned. If they have a safety issue, we can understand this, but we will work with them and to ensure that their own safety in the first instance is not compromised as we go forward. So hopefully within the next 2 weeks we could restore that all city health facilities are working side by side in addressing the COVID issue in our city and in our country.
Chief Executive of Engau Hospital in Lae has called for flights from Port Moresby to be seized as soon as possible to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Dr. Kipas Binga said the risk of widespread community transmission in Moresby is high and the controller should consider isolating Port Moresby. Recommendations for the barring of flights from Port Moresby have been formally conveyed to the controller by the Provincial COVID-19 Committee as Moresby braces for a possible rise in infections.
Basically asking the authorities in Moresby if we can close the Najab, that would be the ideal one to do. But of course, you have to get okay from Moresby. We don't have that power to do that, and so all we have to do from our province is we have to ask. And part of this message is basically of course to ask the authorities in public media, and also we have written a letter to our president, who is the provincial administrator, chairman of the province response for COVID, and that I believe has already been given to the authorities for consideration, and that's one. But while waiting for that response to come from Moresby side, we now have increased manpower at Wampar Health Center, which is closest to Najab. So we're trying to boost up their manpower so they will now cover properly in Najab. Now that Dr. Mendes said to bring in the thermo cameras, so we hopefully, it's just the technicalities of it. We have to get IT people and whether just to how to use it properly so that we'll set it up. Hopefully tomorrow, by Wednesday, we should have that up at the Najab to screen our passengers coming in.
The Red Cross and Red Crescent movements donated personal protective equipment and medical items to the Health Department to help fight COVID-19. Included were over 3,000 surgical face masks and hand sanitizers, 1,500 pairs of examination gloves, 750 goggles and 75 infrared thermometer guns. The Red Cross movement partners are working closely with an objective to contain the spread of the virus through risk communication and community engagement. Secretary General Uwe Namarova says with the increasing number of cases in the National Capital District, their effort is focused on schools and communities. The Red Cross will also be working closely with the relevant authorities such as the Health Department, PNGDF, National Disaster Centre and other stakeholders at the national and provincial levels. You're watching National EMTV News. We'll be back with more stories after these messages. Stay with us. Welcome back. The PNG Accident Investigation Commission is currently in the process of investigating an aircraft crash that occurred yesterday in Papalea, west of Port Moresby. Footage taken from the site shows a small aircraft and investigators surrounding it. Jeremy Mogi with more.
Earlier today, Chief Commissioner of the Accident Investigation Commission, Hubert Namani, announced that information is being gathered after the craft activated a distress signal. He explained that the AIC appointed a team of investigators, which is currently gathering information in the area of the distress signal to commence an investigation if an accident or serious incident is confirmed in compliance with the mandate of the national legislation. Coordination with government authorities, including police, is essential to facilitate the development of on-site activities. When contacted, the AIC, however, stating that they were unable to provide additional information regarding the inbound direction of the flight, status of pilot and crew, and the type of cargo, with the AIC saying that all other planes through PNG airspace had been accounted for, and theories abound as to the purpose of the flight. A week ago, PNG Defence Force Commander Gilbert Toropo saying they were investigating reports of arms being smuggled from out of Port Moresby. The presence of police on the scene from the K9 unit did indicate that the plane may have been transporting illicit or hard drugs, of which have wrought havoc in other parts of the Pacific. Fiji's police commissioner last week attributing the use of hard drugs has contributed to an increase in crime, while in Tonga, a week prior, 2 men were arrested for being in possession of methamphetamines. Attempts to contact the NCD Metropolitan Command for comment proved unsuccessful, but it is understood that the police have also been stepping up surveillance across the land and sea borders. Jeremy Mogi, National TV News.
A drug trafficker was nabbed by police in East New Britain last week when ferrying 28 kilograms of cannabis destined for New Ireland province on a PNG air flight. The suspect, Kelly Giba from East Sepik and resides in Midang, travelled into the province via Lays Nadzab Airport but was intercepted by Tokua Airport police. The marijuana was wrapped in plastic wrappers and stacked in 2 suitcases. East New Britain Provincial Police Commander Senior Inspector Joseph Tabali says the street value of cannabis is worth more than 70,000 kina. PPC Tabali says it is unusual for traffickers to use commercial flights to smuggle such items, as most of them arrive in the province along the New Britain Highway or transported to New Ireland province by sea. The suspect is locked up at the Kokopo police cell and awaits his court appearance. RH Hypermarket today signed a partnership agreement for its online shopping delivery service. A contract was signed with Leading Edge Limited Managing Director Lee Pokarup, whose business trading under FMCG Express will carry out deliveries for shoppers to have their goods brought to their doorsteps. As part of RH's impelling interest to support local businesses, a partnership agreement was signed with a local SME Leading Edge Limited, trading under FMCG Express. The signing of this partnership solidifies the agreement for FMCG Express to carry out deliveries for RH Hypermarket. This means shoppers can now order groceries and other store items off RH online and have them delivered to their doorsteps by FMCG Express.
If you're looking at basic needs, household items, not just food, toiletries, detergents, whatever it is that RH range, that will be what we'll be able to provide. But certainly there has been a change. People are paying predominantly by bank transfer, so that's everyone who prepays for the delivery before the delivery is made.
A minimum of 100 kina is to be spent for the delivery service to be deployed.
From a delivery preference standpoint, FMCG Express is a delivery platform designed specifically to enable key FMCG manufacturers to tap into the last mile of the supply chain, delivering products directly to consumers' homes, and in doing so, providing another level of choice to the consumer.
Delivery fees are as low as 15 kina. Purchase of items are to be made using the RH Wantok gift card.
After purchasing the Wantok gift card, you can go onto our website. It's www.rhtradingpng.com, and then we will take you to the website, the home page. From there you can go to the shopping menu. From there you can choose your shopping to put them in the chart, the shopping chart. After that you can click payment, and then you can do payment using the the Wantok gift card. So within that time, if you purchase it before 9 a.m., it will be delivered at the same day. After 9 a.m., it will take us 48 hours to do the deliveries.
Talks are in place to include bank cards in the near future to make purchases more efficient for those customers who do not have an RH Wantok gift card.
We have been working with the bank to get the payment gateway for a while now, but let's hope it will come along soon so that you can use the credit card or the Kundu or whatever card in the near future.
RH's online service is set to be launched on the 1st of August, and RH is offering a 1-week free delivery for the first 10 customers each day. And now looking at the NASFund market report, the kina opened unchanged at $0.288 in the interbank market this morning. At Bank South Pacific, your kina is buying $0.2805 $0.3914 Australian dollars, $0.2327 euro, and 29.07 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold is trading higher, coffee closed lower, copper closed higher, and cocoa closed lower. Crude oil is trading lower, palm oil closed higher, and copper closed lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 182.44 points lower. The ASX is trading at 20.2 points higher, and the All Ordinaries is trading at 21.6 points higher. National EMTV News continues with stories making headlines overseas. When we come back, stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, a man's been jailed for 11 years for luring vulnerable people from Samoa over more than 2 decades in New Zealand's first slavery case. Joseph Matamata was found guilty with 13 charges of dealing with slaves and 10 of human trafficking.
His offending over more than 2 decades.
Joseph Onga Matamata, you've been found guilty by a jury of 13 charges of dealing in slaves.
Whittled down to a sentencing of just under 2 hours.
You are sentenced to 11 years imprisonment.
And it's an absolute disgrace, the behaviour that he meted out to his victims.
The behaviour started in 1994 when he began luring vulnerable people here from Samoa to work in orchards.
They were poor, mostly poorly educated. They mostly never travelled out of Samoa before.
And what Matamata was doing amounted to slavery. His victims worked long, hard days, sometimes into the night. There was a padlock on the gate. Matamata took their passports, controlling where they went and who with. They were made to work on his home, and at times there were beatings. He took their money and, for the most part, kept it for himself.
None of them were paid for their work. You controlled them by your anger, threats of violence and actual violence.
Justice Cowell said Matamata abused his position as a chief or mātai in Samoa, the suffering outlined in multiple victim impact statements.
He has taken our dreams and lied to us. When I returned to Samoa, my family were very angry at me. They questioned why I even came back to Samoa because I had done nothing for them when I was in New Zealand.
Emotionally abused, they were physically abused, and they went through a pretty awful ordeal.
He's walked away with intention to reflect on the length of the sentence that's been imposed on him.
I am satisfied you obtained a material financial benefit.
Exactly how much isn't known, but it's thought to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Matamata's already forfeited assets, and $183,000 in reparations was ordered. There has never been a case in New Zealand like this one, and that meant the judge had to look overseas to what sentences have been given elsewhere. There was a small wave goodbye as Joseph Matamata was led away for the start of his 11-year jail term.
Don't expect foreign students anytime this year. That is the line from the New Zealand government as it pumped $50 million in the COVID-ravaged education sector. The money will help fill the hole left by international students in schools and English language facilities.
International students at Wellington Girls bring in $750,000 a year.
Without them, we would be in trouble. Yeah, we really would.
These students were already here when our borders closed. The Minister now saying don't plan for any extra international students this year.
Very nervous about it. Yeah, because that's the cream for us.
The government announcing this afternoon it'll help. $52 million will come from the COVID Recovery Fund. That includes $20 million for schools and $10 million for private establishments like English language schools.
I think it's a wonderful start and hallelujah.
Polytechs and universities aren't included.
No university is going to go broke in the short term because of the decline in international students. I know that it will put a strain on their finances, but they are well positioned to weather that.
Schools don't need bailouts and taxpayers don't need borrowing. What we all need is a safe reconnection with the world.
Latest figures show international students are worth $5 billion a year to New Zealand's economy, our 5th largest export earner.
This is really just a short-term band-aid when what's really needed is a safe, secure plan to get international students back.
The government is considering allowing a small group of international students to come into New Zealand, but it won't be until next year, and they'd have to pay for their own managed isolation.
It would be a full cost recovery. We wouldn't be subsidising bringing international students back in.
The government says it needs more time to sort logistics. 117,000 international students came to New Zealand last year, and our safe COVID status might put our providers in hot demand.
And Chukai Sports is next. Fidelis Sukina is at the sports desk.
Thank you, Helen. We have news on volleyball and rugby after the break. Stay tuned.
Chukai Sports.
Good night and welcome to Chukai Sports. Volleyball has made its return to the courts in Port Moresby, with the National Capital District Volleyball Association vying to have a promising season. The competition has 6 clubs and is looking to end before the National Championships in October. Saturday saw a good turnout by athletes from the National Capital District Volleyball Association. The competition, like all other sporting codes, has had to spend time on the sidelines due to COVID-19. But treasurer of the competition, Bala Babaga, says they are happy that finally they can revive their 2020 season.
At least we're having a season to complete the year and keep the code alive, I'd say. Yeah.
The competition has 6 teams for this season, and by the turnout it looks promising for the competition as they look forward to the National Championships in October.
We have 6 clubs in the competition with 2 teams per club. So we are hoping to have the season on for as long as we can. The championships will be held in October, so we aim to get all our players back on track. It's been a challenge due to the virus, but we're hoping that all our members and new players as well will come on board and complete the season.
The competition is slowly picking up pace with a lengthy stint on the sidelines. It will also take time for the teams and fans to adjust to the new protocols set by the PNG Sports Foundation.
It is a challenge having to mentally get back into things, organizing everyone and the new normal as well, you know, so with all the restrictions that are in place at the moment. So all it is having everyone adjust to, you know, sanitizing everything, you know, that the COVID rules require, yes.
And the National Capital District Rugby Union are looking toward this weekend for their competition to kick off. The competition would have started over the weekend, but some clubs are yet to comply with the competition's COVID-19 protocols. The National Capital District Rugby Union on Saturday held trial matches between 3 teams to allow players to have game time in preparation for their season to kick off. Not all teams have qualified for competition, with a few more clubs yet to submit their player database and certificate to compete from World Rugby, the governing body of Rugby Union.
Just made the arrangement for 3 clubs, Defence, Royals and Chiefs, to have a trial. We were supposed to have a competition starting today, but because of a few clubs haven't satisfied the compliance that they're required to do, which is to supply the database and also to provide the certificate of COVID-19 certificate from World Rugby. This were all sent out a month ago, but somehow some few clubs haven't done that, and that's why we couldn't start. So we decided to have a trial match just between the 3 clubs. These 3 have compliance with all the requirements.
Silosi Druma, who officiates during the matches for NCDRU, said with a late start, their competition is expected to go on for just 10 weeks.
Yeah, we have 4 grades. So we've got the elite, and we've got the A grade, under 20, the women's, and also the deaf rugby. So deaf rugby, they've got 4 teams again this year. 8 weeks competition, and then 2 weeks finals. So in total 10 weeks altogether. So that's for season proper.
Silosi also added that they are abiding by the PNG Sports Foundation return to sports protocols, and their club officials are also meeting requirements set by World Rugby.
So we will be using the PNG Sports Foundation return to play protocol, which is all the thing to mitigate COVID-19, checking temperatures, making sure everyone is sanitized, and also no mixing zones, so no mixing with other clubs. All those, all the Sports Foundation return to play protocol we're using, and also we're using some of World Rugby requirements, which is all the coaches and administrators have to sit an online exam. Once they pass that, they send the certificate to PNG Rugby Union plus their database. So the database is basically for tracing purposes if something happens. Those are the two big requirements by PNG Rugby for all the associations to supply.
And Trukai Sports continues with NRL and sailing after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. 4 Warriors players are relieved to be back in New Zealand almost 3 months after leaving for the NRL restart. The quartet decided to return home to be with family, even if it meant taking another pay cut.
Warriors Ken Maumalo, Ignatius Basi, David Fositua and King Voniayawa. Bags packed, leaving Sydney on a 3-hour flight home, just the start of a 2-week journey including quarantine, to be back with family.
Keen to get home? Yeah. See the family? Been missing them, eh? Yeah, very much. Good one.
Lauded for their sacrifice to get the NRL running again in Australia, the trip home requires more sacrifice. While COVID cost all NRL players roughly 50% of their wages, One News understands these players will take another substantial cut. But as they've told teammates, money isn't everything.
They're going for a good reason. There's a lot more than to footy. I mean, they got their families, and which is pretty sad because they were promised, a long time ago that they would be over here spending time with them. So we support them 100%. And although it's sad to see them go, and I'm sure the team footy-wise is going to miss them a lot, but there's more to it.
The 2 former Dally M wingers of the year will definitely leave a big hole for the remaining 9 regular season games, but coming home won't be a holiday.
When they get home, still got to train a bit. So, yeah, kind of like a long preseason for the 4 boys.
But first, it's 2 weeks isolation after being processed at Auckland Airport in the last hour. This roller coaster season is now over for them and their families.
And it's officially game on in the America's Cup, with Challenger America Magic today taking the Hauriki Gulf for the first time. Magic's boat Defiant put on quite a show in the inner harbour, as well attracting plenty of attention.
Team New Zealand is no longer alone on home waters.
Oh, this is good.
Defiant, defying gravity in Auckland's inner harbour today, and also off Devonport. The first challenger here by months, and the first to get a taste of Kiwi conditions in their AC 75.
Did it feel like home being out there today?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was so nice to get back out on New Zealand waters and go sailing again. Yeah.
Earlier this morning, after rigging and checks, American Magic left dockside for the first time. The American syndicate soon had their soft wing sail hoisted in the shadow of the Auckland Harbour Bridge. Every move snapped and filmed by onlookers from rival syndicates, including a constant presence from Team New Zealand.
It's been close to 5 months since we last sailed the boat, and so it's just sort of finding your way again.
Once under sail, Defiant for the first time lifted off in front of Auckland's container terminal, around North Head and onto the Hauriki Gulf and the racecourses for the summer ahead. And it was all on. We're pulling around 35 knots in our break glass. Defiant doing that easily.
They got up foiling, pretty well straight away. So, that's another good sign.
We saw today they just take off, basically.
The acceleration's quite phenomenal. You sort of, the boat pops up and, away you go.
American Magic proving today an early arrival during COVID was a canny move.
As far as the others are concerned, they've really got to think hard now, because they'll be able to see tonight these photos going out of one of their opposition here in foiling, and they know they've got to get here. They know that the COVID thing is getting worse overseas.
The good news is there is a challenger officially up and running and here.
And that story ends Trukai Sports. Helen will join you next with the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
A look at the weather forecasts in the southern region. Partly cloudy with chance of afternoon showers in Port Moresby. Mostly fine, then possible afternoon showers developing in Popondetta. In the Moresby region, mostly fine weather, then chance of afternoon showers developing in Lae. Cloudy with rain showers and occasional thunderstorms in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine, then likely afternoon showers in Lorengau and Kavieng. Cloudy with occasional rain showers in Buka. And in the Highlands region, mostly fine, then a likely chance of afternoon showers in Mount Hagen, Goroka and Kundiawa. And cloudy with chance of occasional rain drizzle in Mendi and Wabeg.
Weather update was proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
And that ends the news, sport and weather for Monday, 27th of July 2020. From all of us here at EMTV, pleasant viewing. Bye for now.